The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, though nobody on Earth would ever forget the exact time. It was 9:47 Greenwich Mean Time, when every communication device on the planet simultaneously displayed the same holographic image. A towering insectoid creature with 4 arms and crystalline eyes stared down at humanity from screens in homes, offices, and public squares across the globe. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking coffee in the command center of the Endeavour, Earth's first true deep space vessel, when the transmission cut through every channel. He nearly dropped his mug as the alien's voice filled the room. Translated into flawless English by technology far beyond human understanding. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the creature said, its mandibles clicking with each word. "I am High Arbiter Zekthar, Supreme Leader of the Galactic Council. We have observed your recent achievement of faster-than-light travel. We welcome you to the galactic community." Dr. Helen Grant, who stood beside Morrison, grabbed his arm. She had spent 3 years learning to communicate with aliens, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The entire crew stood frozen, watching the impossible sight before them. "However," Zekthar continued, "there are rules that all civilized species must follow. For your own protection and the safety of the galaxy, you must surrender all military vessels and weapons to Council authority within 30 of your Earth days. You will accept Council governors who will guide your development for the next 500 years. This is not a request. This is how things are done. Every species in the galaxy has accepted these terms. You will do the same." The transmission ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving billions of humans staring at blank screens in stunned silence. Morrison looked at Helen, his jaw tight. "Did that thing just tell us to surrender?" "I think it did," Helen whispered. "I think it actually did." Within hours, every world leader had gathered for an emergency virtual summit. Admiral Peter Cole, commander of Earth's United Defense Fleet, stood before the assembled presidents, prime ministers, and chancellors with a grim expression. "We've analyzed the transmission," Cole said. "It came from a source approximately 40 light-years away, but it reached every device on Earth simultaneously. That means their technology is centuries, maybe millennia, ahead of ours, so we should surrender?" asked one of the European representatives. Ambassador Lisa Barnes, Earth's chief diplomat, shook her head firmly. "Before we make any decisions, we need more information. I recommend we send a response requesting a formal meeting." The Council agreed, and within a day, Captain Morrison found himself piloting the Endeavour toward the coordinates the aliens had provided. Helen sat beside him, constantly checking her translation software, while a small crew of diplomats and military advisors filled the seats behind them. The meeting took place on a massive space station that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. Morrison guided the Endeavour into a docking bay large enough to hold 100 ships their size. As they walked through corridors filled with dozens of different alien species, Helen counted at least 20 distinct body types. From gaseous clouds contained in suits to massive creatures that looked like walking boulders, they were led to a council chamber where 47 different species sat in a circular arrangement. High Arbiter Zekthar occupied the highest seat, looking down at the human delegation like a judge regarding criminals. "You have come to formalize your surrender?" Zekthar asked. Ambassador Barnes stepped forward, her voice calm and professional. "We have come to discuss terms. We would like to understand why surrender is necessary." A wave of chittering, buzzing, and humming filled the chamber. The aliens were laughing. "Because you are new," Zekthar explained as if speaking to children. "Because you are primitive. Because without our guidance, you would destroy yourselves or threaten others. Every species goes through this. You surrender your weapons, we guide you, and in 500 years you may earn limited autonomy." Morrison felt his hands clench into fists. Helen touched his shoulder gently, warning him to stay calm. "What if we refuse?" Barnes asked. The chamber fell silent. Zekthar's crystalline eyes seemed to glow brighter. "No one refuses," he said slowly. "No one has ever refused. It would be most unwise to be the first." "That's not an answer," Morrison said, unable to stay quiet any longer. What happens if we say no? Another alien spoke up, a reptilian creature with scales that shifted colors. Then we take corrective action. We have fleets that could turn your planet to ash. But we are civilized. We prefer cooperation. The meeting continued for hours, but the message never changed. Surrender or face destruction. Submit or be crushed. Obey or suffer. When the human delegation returned to the Endeavor, they sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Helen spoke. I studied their body language, their tone, everything, she said. They're not bluffing. They really believe we'll just give up? Because everyone else did, Morrison said bitterly. Admiral Cole's face appeared on the main screen connecting from Earth. What's your assessment, Captain? Morrison looked at his crew, then back at the Admiral. They're powerful, sir. Maybe too powerful to fight. But they're also arrogant. They think we're primitives who'll roll over at the first threat. And will we? Cole asked. Barnes leaned forward. I've been thinking about that. I accessed their historical database during the meeting. Every species they've encountered over the last 3,000 years surrendered after seeing their fleet. They haven't actually fought a war in millennia. They maintain power through fear and intimidation. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Cole asked. I'm suggesting, Barnes said carefully, that maybe it's time someone called their bluff. 2 weeks later, representatives from the Galactic Council contacted Earth again, expecting formal surrender documents. Instead, they received a live transmission showing Admiral Cole standing in the war room of Earth's primary defense station with Ambassador Barnes beside him. High Arbiter Zekthar, Cole said clearly. We, the people of Earth, have considered your demands carefully. After extensive deliberation, our answer is no. We will not surrender our sovereignty. We will not give up our freedom. If you want to take it from us, you'll have to try. Barnes added, we hope this can be resolved peacefully. We're willing to negotiate as equals. But we will never bow as subjects. The transmission ended. On the council station, 47 species sat in shocked silence. High Arbiter Zekthar mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Impossible, he whispered. This is impossible. But it had happened. For the first time in 3,000 years, someone had said no to the Galactic Council. And humanity was about to teach the galaxy a lesson it had long forgotten. Freedom is never given. It's taken. High Arbiter Zekthar watched the human transmission 3 times before he truly believed what he was seeing. Around him, the council chamber buzzed with confused chatter from dozens of species, each speaking in their own language but all expressing the same shock. Silence! Zekthar commanded, and the chamber fell quiet. The humans have made a grave mistake. They don't understand the reality of their situation. We must educate them. Commander Vrel, a massive reptilian warrior who led the Council's enforcement fleet, stepped forward. His scales rippled with shades of red and orange, colors that indicated eagerness for combat. Let me take a battle group to their system, Vrel hissed. 20 ships should be more than sufficient. When they see our power, they will beg to surrender. Zekthar considered this. In the past, most species surrendered after seeing just 5 council ships. 20 seemed excessive, but perhaps a stronger show of force would prevent any further defiance. Make it so, Zekthar agreed. But remember, we are civilized. Destroy only military targets if they resist. We want the humans alive to serve the Council. Vrel bowed and left to prepare his fleet. Within the Council, several members whispered their concerns. Is military action wise? Asked a delegate from the Metheri, a species of floating gas creatures. Perhaps negotiation would be better. Negotiation? Zekathar's mandibles clicked in amusement. With primitives who achieved space travel only recently? No, they must learn their place, as all species do. Meanwhile, on Earth, the response was very different. Captain Morrison stood in a military briefing room packed with officers, scientists, and strategists. At the front of the room, Dr. Sophie Bennett projected holographic images of council ships that had been captured by long-range sensors. We got lucky, Sophie said. highlighting various sections of the alien vessels. When Captain Morrison's crew docked at the council station, our passive scanners recorded everything they could. I've spent the last week analyzing the data, and I found something interesting. Admiral Cole leaned forward. Which is? These ships are old. Not just old in age, but old in design. I compared the council vessels to our historical database of human naval architecture. Their design philosophy hasn't changed in over 2,000 years. They've had no reason to innovate because nobody has challenged them. Colonel Ryan Hughes, a veteran Special Operations commander, smiled. They've been fighting nobody but themselves for millennia. Exactly, Sophie confirmed. Their shields are impressive, designed to deflect energy weapons. But I ran simulations. They're vulnerable to kinetic projectiles, good old-fashioned solid objects moving at high velocity. Railguns, Morrison said, understanding immediately. Our ships carry railguns because they're simple and reliable. And the Council has probably forgotten that anyone still uses them, Sophie added. Ambassador Barnes, who sat in on the meeting via video link, raised a concern. Even if we can fight them, should we? War with an advanced civilization could mean the end of humanity. It could, Cole admitted. But so could surrender. I've read the histories of every species in the Council database that Barnes downloaded. Every single one had their culture suppressed, their technology limited, their people reduced to second-class citizens. Some have been under Council control for over 1,000 years. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. So we fight, Morrison said simply. We fight, Cole agreed. But smart. We defend our home, and we show them that humanity isn't easy prey. Danny Cross, a young engineer who had been quiet until now, raised his hand nervously. Sir, I have an idea. It's a little crazy, but it might work. Let's hear it, Cole said. Danny explained his concept for rapid deployment drone swarms. Small, cheap, fast-moving craft that could overwhelm targeting systems designed for large vessels. The Council had never faced anything like it because they considered such tactics beneath them. Build it, Cole ordered. We have maybe 3 weeks before they arrive. Use whatever resources you need. And the next 19 days passed in a blur of activity. Shipyards on Earth, Mars, and the Moon worked around the clock. 50 human vessels, everything from military cruisers to converted cargo haulers, formed a defensive perimeter around Earth. Each ship now carried Danny's drones, swarms, and upgraded railgun systems. Captain Morrison commanded the defense fleet from the Endeavour, with Lieutenant Amy Price as his tactical officer. Amy was young but brilliant, with an instinct for combat strategy that impressed even veteran commanders. Contacts, the sensor operator called out. 20 vessels, just like the Council said, dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Morrison felt his heart race but kept his voice calm. All ships, battle stations, hold formation. Let them come to us. Commander Vrel looked at the human fleet on his display and laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. 20 Council ships against 50 human vessels might seem like poor odds, but he knew the truth. One Council ship could destroy 5 human vessels with ease. This would be over quickly. Open a channel, Vrel ordered. His face appeared on screens throughout the human fleet. Humans, this is your final chance. Surrender now, and we will be merciful. Resist, and we will crush you. Morrison smiled, which surprised Vrel. Why would Prey smile? Commander Vrel, Morrison said. Thank you for coming all this way. Unfortunately, we have to decline your generous offer. Our answer remains no. Vrel's scales turned deep crimson with rage. Then you have chosen destruction? Attack? The Council ships moved forward in perfect formation, a tactic they had used successfully for thousands of years. Their shields activated shimmering barriers of energy that could withstand tremendous punishment. You're up, Morrison said calmly. Lieutenant Price had studied every second of footage from Council battles. She had noticed something that Sophie's analysis had missed. The Council ships always moved in the same patterns, following precise geometric formations that looked impressive but were predictable. All ships execute pattern Delta, Amy ordered. Drones away. The human fleet scattered in multiple directions, moving erratically. From each ship, hundreds of small drones launched, filling space with thousands of fast-moving targets. The Council targeting systems, designed to track and destroy large vessels, struggled to lock onto so many small objects. "Fire railguns on my mark," Morrison commanded. The Council ships attempted to adjust their formation, but 3,000 years of the same tactics had made them slow to adapt. They were still moving into their traditional attack pattern when the human fleet struck, solid tungsten rods, accelerated to incredible velocities, punched through energy shields designed for lasers and plasma weapons. The shields barely slowed the projectiles at all. 3 Council ships exploded in the first volley. Vrel watched in horror as his fleet, which had never known defeat, suddenly faced an enemy that fought nothing like they expected. The humans didn't follow any of the established rules of space combat. They moved unpredictably, used weapons the Council considered primitive, and coordinated with a precision that suggested extensive combat experience. "All ships reform," Vrel ordered, but it was too late. The human fleet had already scattered again, their drones harassing Council vessels from every direction. Morrison felt no joy in the destruction, but he felt satisfaction. Target their weapons and engines? Let's try to capture some intact if we can. The battle lasted only 47 minutes. When it ended, 14 Council ships were destroyed. 6 were disabled and floating dead in space, and 0 human vessels had been lost. A few had damage, but nothing critical, Commander Vrel, his flagship crippled and leaking atmosphere, managed to escape by jumping to faster-than-light speed with barely functioning engines, Captain. Morrison looked at the captured vessels and made a decision. Send salvage teams. I want every piece of technology on those ships studied. On the Council station, Zekthar received Vrel's transmission in stunned silence. The commander's report seemed impossible. 20 ships lost to primitives? Unthinkable, but the proof was undeniable. Humanity had won. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds under Council control, other species watched the battle footage that humans broadcast. Freely throughout known space, for the first time in 3,000 years, the oppressed saw hope. The wreckage of the Council fleet drifted through Earth's orbital space like monuments to humanity's defiance. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, watching salvage teams carefully extract technology from the disabled alien vessels. Each discovery made the victory feel more real and more dangerous. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Price called from her station, "you need to see this." Morrison walked over to her console, where she had been analyzing combat footage frame by frame. Amy pointed to a specific sequence showing Council ships attempting to change formation. "Watch how they move," she said. "See that 3-second delay between the command ship's maneuver and the others following? They're not thinking independently. They're waiting for orders." "Centralized command," Morrison muttered. "If we can disrupt their communications, they can't adapt." "Exactly. And look at this." Amy brought up another sequence. "When we went off script and scattered, they tried to return to formation instead of pursuing. Their tactical doctrine hasn't evolved in centuries. Maybe longer." Morrison felt a chill. The Council was powerful, but they were also predictable. That combination was dangerous for them and hopeful for humanity. Down in the Endeavour's engineering bay, Danny Cross was practically dancing with excitement. He had spent the last 12 hours examining one of the captured Council ships, and what he found amazed him. "Admiral Cole needs to see this right now," Danny told his supervisor, within an hour. A virtual conference connected Morrison, Cole, Ambassador Barnes, and Dr. Sophie Bennett to Danny's findings. "Their ships are incredible," Danny explained, displaying holographic schematics. "The power systems alone are 50 years ahead of ours. The shield technology is beautiful. But here's the thing, it's all standardized. Every ship uses the exact same systems, the exact same programming, the exact same tactics database, which means," Cole prompted, "which means if we crack one, we've cracked them all. There's no variation, no innovation. They found something that worked 3,000 years ago and never changed it. Sophie whistled low. That's what happens when you have no competition. No pressure to evolve. Ambassador Barnes looked troubled. This victory is going to make them angry. We humiliated them in front of the entire galaxy. They'll come back with more force. Let them, Morrison said firmly. Every day we have their ships, we learn more. Every day they delay, we get stronger. He was right. The broadcast of the battle had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. On Earth, the footage played on every news channel, showing humanity's impossible victory. But the real impact was happening far from human space, on the planet Vornath. Located in a distant spiral arm of the galaxy, a being named Kale watched the battle footage for the 100th time. Kale's people, the Vornathi, had once been proud warriors with a rich culture spanning thousands of years. 800 years ago, the Council had arrived and offered them the same choice given to humanity, surrender or die. The Vornathi had surrendered. They had believed the Council's promises of guidance and protection. Instead, they had been reduced to laborers and servants, their warrior traditions outlawed, their technology limited to levels the Council deemed safe. But now, watching humans destroy Council ships with weapons the Council considered primitive, Kale felt something long dead stirring inside. Hope. Kale was not alone. Across the galaxy, representatives from dozens of species watched the same footage and asked themselves the same question. If humans could resist, why couldn't they? On the Council station, High Arbiter Zekthar faced a crisis unlike anything in his long life. The Council chamber, usually orderly and calm, had descended into chaos. Representatives from 47 species all shouted at once, demanding action, explanation, or simply expressing panic. "Order!" Zekthar commanded, his voice amplified. "We will have order." The chamber quieted, but the tension remained thick. "The humans got lucky," Zekthar said. "They exploited weaknesses in outdated tactics. This will not happen again. Outdated tactics?" The Methri delegate's gaseous form swirled with agitation. "Those tactics have kept peace for millennia. If they're outdated, what does that say about our entire system?" "It says nothing," Zekthar insisted. "Commander Vrel underestimated the enemy. We will not make that mistake twice." Commander Vrel, standing to one side with visible injuries from his escape, kept silent. His scales had turned a dull gray, the color of shame among his people. "What do you propose?" asked another delegate. "We assemble a proper invasion force," Zekthar declared. 500 ships. We will crush Earth completely and broadcast their destruction to every world. No one will dare defy us again. Several delegates nodded, but others looked uncertain. The Methri spoke again. "High Arbiter, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The humans have asked only to be treated as equals. Perhaps if we negotiated? Zekthar-'s mandibles clicked furiously. "We are the Galactic Council. We do not negotiate with primitives who have barely left their own star system. We dictate terms and they obey. This is how order is maintained." The chamber fell silent, but many delegates exchanged worried glances. They were beginning to wonder if order maintained through force was truly order at all. Back on Earth, Captain Morrison received an unexpected communication. The origin point was scrambled, making it impossible to trace. But the message itself was clear. A holographic image appeared showing Kale, the Vornathi representative. Kale's species looked almost human, with 2 arms and 2 legs, but their skin had a faint blue tint and their eyes were larger and more expressive. "Captain Morrison," Kale said in careful English, "I speak for myself and others like me. We have watched your victory. We have seen you do what we could not, stand against the Council. I contact you in secret because what I'm about to say could mean death for my people if discovered." Morrison leaned forward. "Go on. The Council is not invincible. They maintain power through fear, through the belief that resistance is impossible. You have shattered that belief. Other species are watching. Some of us want to help." "Help?" Morrison asked cautiously. "Information. Intelligence about Council fleet movements, ship capabilities, strategic weaknesses. In exchange, we ask only one thing. Remember us when this is over. Remember that some of us never wanted to bow, but we had no choice. Until now, Morrison looked at Admiral Cole, who nodded slowly. We'll remember, Morrison promised. And Cale, when this is over, you'll stand beside us as equals. That's a promise. The communication ended, and Morrison sat back in his chair. Helen Grant, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. This changes everything. We're not just fighting for Earth anymore. No, Morrison agreed. We're fighting for everyone who's been forced to kneel. Over the next weeks, more secret communications arrived from different species across the galaxy. Each one brought valuable intelligence about the Council. Ship movements, fleet compositions, tactical doctrines, even internal political divisions within the Council itself. Dr. Sophie Bennett coordinated all the incoming data, building a complete picture of the Council's military capabilities. What she found was both encouraging and terrifying. They're assembling the largest fleet in galactic history, Sophie told the command staff. 500 ships, maybe more. Everything they have? Can we win against those odds? Colonel Ryan Hughes asked. Sophie paused before answering. Alone? No, we'd lose eventually, even with our tactical advantages. But we're not alone anymore. She brought up a star map showing secret alliance communications. 23 different species had made contact, offering various forms of support. Some could provide intelligence. Others could offer ships, though those would have to be smuggled away from Council control. A few offered strategic locations for ambush points. It's a rebellion, Ambassador Barnes said softly. We've started a galaxy-wide rebellion. Not started, Helen corrected. We've given voice to something that's been building for centuries. All those species the Council crushed and controlled, they never forgot what they lost. They were just waiting for someone to show them it was possible to fight back. Admiral Cole stood and looked at the assembled group. Then we make sure we win. Because if we lose, the Council won't just destroy Earth. They'll make examples of every species that supported us. Captain Morrison nodded grimly. Then we'd better not lose. In the distance, the Council's invasion fleet continued to grow. 500 ships and counting. All converging on one destination, Earth. The Council intended to make an example that would echo across the galaxy for millennia. They had no idea that the galaxy was already changing, that their grip on power was slipping, or that the humans they dismissed as primitives had become the spark that would ignite a revolution spanning thousands of worlds. The real war was about to begin. Ambassador Lisa Barnes had not slept properly in 3 weeks. Her office on Earth's diplomatic station had become a constant hub of encrypted communications from across the galaxy. Each day brought new contacts, new allies, and new complications. The holographic display in front of her showed 23 different species representatives, each in their own small window. They spoke in different languages, but the translation software kept up admirably. This had become a daily occurrence. These secret meetings where the oppressed planned their freedom. The Council is moving faster than we expected, said Cale, the Vornathi representative who had first contacted Earth. Our intelligence indicates the invasion fleet will be ready in 40 days, not 60. Barnes felt her stomach tighten. 40 days to prepare for the largest space battle in galactic history. 40 days to coordinate a rebellion spanning thousands of light years. What about your ships? Barnes asked. Can you get them to Earth in time? Cale's expression darkened. 60 vessels from my people are prepared to fight. But if we move them now, the Council will notice. We need to time this perfectly. Launch them when the invasion fleet is already committed. Another delegate spoke up, a being from the Rothani species that resembled a crystalline spider. We can provide 30 ships, but they are older models. Decommissioned vessels the Council thought we had destroyed. Any ship that can fight is welcome, Barnes assured them. Dr. Helen Grant, who sat beside Barnes during these meetings, had been working tirelessly to understand the various cultures reaching out to Earth. She had learned something important over the past weeks. Most of these species have been under Council control for so long. They've forgotten how to wage war, Helen whispered to Barnes during a break in the meeting. They want to help, but they don't know how. Then we teach them, Barnes replied. Just like we're learning their technology. Down in Earth's primary shipyard, the learning was happening at an incredible pace. Danny Cross led a team of engineers who were reverse engineering Council technology, while simultaneously upgrading human vessels with the knowledge gained. This is amazing, Danny explained to Admiral Cole during a facility tour. Their power generation is based on controlled quantum reactions. If we can miniaturize it, we could double our ship's speed and weapons output. How long? Cole asked. To perfect it? Years to get a working prototype? I can have something in 2 weeks. You have 10 days? Cole said. It was not negotiable. Captain Jake Morrison was facing his own challenges. He stood in a training simulator with pilots from 3 different alien species who had secretly arrived on Earth. They were teaching each other, sharing tactics and strategies. A Vornithy pilot named Taryn sat in the simulator beside Morrison, practicing evasive maneuvers. Taryn had been a warrior before the Council banned such things among his people. 800 years of suppression had not erased the instinct. You fly angry, Morrison observed. That will get you killed. My people have been slaves for 8 centuries, Taryn growled. How else should I fly? Morrison understood the anger. He felt it too, but he had learned something during humanity's own bloody history. Channel it. Use it as fuel, but don't let it control you. Angry pilots make mistakes. Taryn practiced the maneuver again, this time with more control. Better, Morrison said. Again. While pilots trained and engineers built, Captain Nina Walsh led humanity's stealth reconnaissance efforts. She commanded a small vessel equipped with the most advanced cloaking technology Earth had developed, using principles learned from captured Council ships. Nina's mission was simple but dangerous: track the Council's invasion fleet and gather intelligence. For 3 weeks, she had shadowed the massive armada as it assembled at a staging point 200 light-years from Earth. What she discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. The fleet is huge, Nina reported during a secure communication with Admiral Cole. I count 517 ships. Everything from massive dreadnoughts to smaller cruisers. But here's the interesting part. The crews are poorly trained. Explain, Cole said. I've been monitoring their training exercises. The Council has had peace for so long. Most of these crews have never seen real combat. They run the same drills over and over, following procedures that haven't changed in centuries. They're prepared for traditional space warfare, but nothing like what we showed them at Earth. Cole felt a spark of hope. Numbers meant less if the enemy could not use them effectively, Nina continued. There's something else. I've detected encrypted communications between some of the Council ships. Not official channels, but hidden ones. I think some of the crews know about the rebellion and are sympathetic, but they're afraid to act. Can you make contact? Cole asked. Too risky. But I'll keep monitoring. If things go badly for the Council, during the battle, some of these ships might switch sides. Back on Earth, Colonel Ryan Hughes was working on the most audacious part of the defense plan. He stood in a command center with holographic star maps showing the solar system and surrounding space. The Council expects us to defend Earth directly, Ryan explained to his staff. They'll come in with overwhelming force and try to crush us against our own planet. We can't win a straight fight with those odds. So what do? Asked one of his officers. Ryan smiled. We don't give them a straight fight. We turn our solar system into a killing field. He highlighted various points in space around Earth. We've had mining crews secretly placing weapons platforms at these locations. Automated systems using Council technology, hidden with cloaking fields. The Council fleet will have to pass through this gauntlet to reach Earth. Will it be enough? The officer asked. By itself? No, but combined with our fleet, the Allied ships, and the element of surprise, it might tip the balance. As the days counted down, the various pieces of the rebellion began to move. Ships launched from hidden locations across the galaxy, traveling on secret routes to avoid Council patrols. Information flowed between dozens of species, coordinated through secure channels that Earth had helped establish. Ambassador Barnes found herself at the center of it all. negotiating, planning, and trying to hold together an alliance of species that had never worked together before. Some of the species had ancient grievances with each other, old wars from before the Council had conquered them all. "You must put aside your differences," Barnes pleaded during one particularly heated meeting. "The Council has kept you divided for exactly this reason. United, you're dangerous to them. Divided, you're slaves." Kale supported her. "The human is right. My people and the Rothani fought wars long ago, but that was before the Council. Now we have a common enemy and a common goal: freedom." Slowly, reluctantly, the various species agreed to cooperate. Dr. Sophie Bennett had been analyzing every scrap of intelligence about the Council's military strategy. Late one night, she made a discovery that changed everything. "They're going to use the Arcturus Gate," Sophie told Admiral Cole urgently. The Arcturus Gate was an ancient piece of Council technology, a stable wormhole that allowed instant travel across vast distances. The Council fleet could use it to arrive at Earth within minutes instead of the weeks normal, faster than light travel would require. "That means they could attack at any time," Cole said grimly. "Yes, but it also means we know exactly where they'll arrive. The gate has a fixed exit point. We can prepare for that." Cole immediately understood the implication. If they knew where the enemy would arrive, they could position forces for a devastating first strike. "Get Captain Morrison. We need to revise the entire battle plan." Across the galaxy, High Arbiter Zekthar stood in the command center of his flagship, the largest vessel in the Council fleet. Around him, hundreds of ships prepared for the journey through the Arcturus Gate. "The humans will regret their defiance," Zekthar said to Commander Vrel, who had been given one more chance to redeem himself. "When we destroy Earth, every species in the galaxy will remember what happens to those who resist the Council." Vrel's scales showed a mixture of shame and anticipation. "The fleet is ready, High Arbiter. We will not fail again." But neither of them knew that their plans were already compromised. They did not know about the secret rebellion. They did not know about the alliance forming against them. They did not know that the humans had learned to fight smart instead of fighting fair. On Earth, with 30 days remaining until the invasion, Captain Morrison stood before the assembled crews of the human defense fleet. Beside him stood Kale, and representatives from 20 other species, each commanding vessels that had secretly gathered near Earth. "We're outnumbered," Morrison said bluntly. "The Council has more ships, better technology, and thousands of years of experience. They expect us to lose." He paused, looking at the faces around him. Human, alien, all united by a common cause. "But we have something they don't. We have a reason to fight." "They fight to maintain control. We fight for our freedom." "They fight because they're ordered to. We fight because we choose to. And that makes all the difference." The crews cheered, a sound that echoed through the assembled ships in dozens of different languages, but with one unified meaning: defiance. The galaxy was awakening, and nothing would ever be the same. The Arcturus Gate shimmered with energy, a tier in space that connected two distant points in the galaxy. High Arbiter Zekthar stood on the bridge of his massive flagship, watching as ship after ship passed through the gate ahead of him. 517 vessels, the largest armada ever assembled by the Galactic Council. "We will arrive at Earth in perfect formation," Zekthar announced to his command staff. "The humans will see our power and understand the futility of resistance. If they have any intelligence at all, they will surrender before we fire a single shot." Commander Vrel, standing beside him, was less certain. "High Arbiter, our intelligence suggests the humans may have allies. Should we not scout ahead?" Zekthar's mandibles clicked with irritation. Allies? What allies could primitives find in the mere weeks since their minor victory? "No, Vrel. The humans are alone, and they will fall." The flagship entered the gate on the other side near Earth. Admiral Peter Cole stood in the command center of humanity's primary orbital station. Around him, holographic displays showed 800 ships in carefully arranged positions. Hundreds of human vessels mixed with ships from 23 different species, all waiting in silent readiness. "Incoming gate activation," reported the sensor operator. "Here they come." Cole opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Cole. You know the plan." Wait for my signal. Captain Jake Morrison aboard the Endeavour watched his tactical display as the first Council ships began emerging from the gate. They appeared in a tight formation, exactly as Dr. Sophie Bennett had predicted they would. The Council's rigid tactics had not changed even for an invasion. Beside Morrison, Lieutenant Amy Price counted ships as they appeared. 20, 40, 60, still coming. The Council fleet continued to pour through the gate, ship after ship, until their full strength had arrived. They immediately began moving into attack formation. Spreading out in precise geometric patterns that had been used successfully for thousands of years on his flagship, Zekthar surveyed what his sensors showed him and froze. "This is impossible," he whispered, where he expected to find a terrified planet defended by primitive vessels. He instead saw an armada nearly twice the size of his own fleet. Human ships flying alongside vessels from dozens of species that should have been safely under Council control. "High Arbiter," Vrel said urgently. "We should withdraw and reassess." "No." Zekthar's voice cracked with fury and panic. "They are traitors and primitives. We are the Galactic Council. We will crush them." He opened a communication channel that broadcast to every ship in both fleets. "Humans of Earth, this is your final chance. Surrender now, and we will show mercy. Continue this madness, and we will turn your planet to ash." Admiral Cole's face appeared on every screen in the Council fleet. He was smiling, but there was no humor in it. "High Arbiter Zekthar, you keep using that word. Surrender. Let me tell you something about humanity. We have a long history of fighting tyrants. Kings, dictators, empires that thought they were invincible. They all made the same mistake you're making now." "And what mistake is that?" Zekthar demanded. "You mistook our kindness for weakness. You mistook our patience for fear. You're about to learn the difference." Cole cut the transmission and gave the order that would change galactic history. "All ships fire at will." The hidden weapons platforms that Colonel Ryan Hughes had positioned throughout the solar system activated simultaneously. Thousands of missiles and railgun projectiles erupted from positions the Council fleet had not detected. The first wave hit the Council's rear formation before they could even raise shields. 15 ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. "Evasive maneuvers!" Vrel screamed, but the Council ships were caught in their own rigid formation. They could not scatter without colliding with each other. Captain Morrison led the human vanguard forward. "Danny, release the drones." Danny Cross, now commanding a dedicated drone carrier vessel, launched every unit at once. 30,000 small, fast-moving craft swarmed toward the Council fleet like angry insects. The Council's targeting systems, designed for large vessels, struggled to track so many small objects. The drones weaved through defensive fire, getting close enough to deploy magnetic mines that attached to Council ships' hulls, but the Council was not defenseless. They had numbers and power. Their capital ships began targeting human vessels with devastating energy weapons. The Endeavour shook as a plasma bolt grazed its shields. "Shields at 60%, Amy reported. "Return fire," Morrison ordered. "Target their command ship." The battle that followed was chaos on a scale never before seen in galactic history. 800 ships against 500. Thousands of smaller craft zipping between capital vessels. Energy weapons and kinetic projectiles filling space with deadly light. Kale led the Vornithy contingent with a fury born of 800 years of oppression. His people flew with a skill that shocked even the humans, showing that warriors do not forget their nature even after centuries of subjugation. "For Vornith," Kale screamed as his ship destroyed a Council cruiser. "For freedom!" Other species followed his lead. The Rothani, the Methri, the Kelvin, each fighting with the desperation of those who knew this was their only chance at liberty. Admiral Cole coordinated the entire Allied fleet from his command center, but he could not be everywhere at once. The sheer scale of the battle made centralized command impossible. Instead, he had to trust his captains to make the right decisions, and they did. Captain Nina Walsh, who had spent weeks studying the Council fleet, identified a critical weakness. "Admiral, the Council ships are all networked to the flagship. If we can disrupt that connection, they'll lose coordination." Can you do it? Cole asked. Give me 5 ships in 10 minutes. Nina replied. Cole gave her both. Nina led a strike team on a dangerous run through the heart of the Council formation. They dodged fire from dozens of ships, lost 2 vessels to enemy fire, but reached their target, the massive flagship where High Arbiter Zekthar commanded. Deploying virus, Nina said calmly as her ship released a digital weapon based on captured Council technology. The virus spread through the Council's network in seconds. Ship-to-ship communications scrambled. Targeting solutions disappeared. Tactical displays went blank on the flagship bridge. Zekthar watched in horror as his carefully coordinated fleet descended into confusion. Restore communications, he ordered, but his crew could not comply. The virus was too sophisticated, too deeply embedded in systems that had not been updated in millennia without central coordination. Council ships began making individual decisions. Some pressed the attack. Others tried to retreat. A few simply held position, waiting for orders that never came. Captain Morrison saw the opportunity immediately. All ships, concentrate fire on their command vessel. Take it down now. The combined Allied fleet turned its full attention on Zekthar's flagship. Railgun rounds, missiles, energy weapons, everything humanity and its allies had available pounded the massive ship's shields. Commander Vrel, seeing the inevitable, tried one last time to save his commander. High Arbiter, we must abandon ship. But Zekthar was beyond reason. He had ruled the galaxy with absolute authority for over a century. The idea of defeat was literally incomprehensible to him. No, he said quietly. This cannot be happening. It is not possible. The flagship's shields collapsed. The next volley tore through the hull, ripping the massive vessel apart from the inside. Vrel managed to escape in a shuttle moments before the flagship exploded. But High Arbiter Zekthar died, still refusing to believe that primitives and traitors had defeated the mighty Galactic Council, with the flagship destroyed and their network crippled. The remaining Council ships lost all cohesion. Some tried to fight on, but most simply stopped. Their crews paralyzed by shock and confusion. Admiral Cole broadcast a message to the entire Council fleet. Attention Council ships. Your leader is dead. Your formation is broken. You have a choice now. Surrender and live or fight and die. Choose quickly. Over the next hour, 342 Council ships surrendered. The remaining vessels either fled through the Arcturus Gate or were destroyed when they continued to resist. The battle for Earth was over. The Allied fleet had won, but the cost had been significant. 200 ships destroyed or heavily damaged. Tens of thousands dead from multiple species. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge of the Endeavour, looking at the wreckage filling Earth's orbital space. Lieutenant Amy Price stood beside him, her face streaked with tears. We won, she whispered. We actually won. We did, Morrison agreed. But the hard part comes next. He was right. Across the galaxy, news of the Council's defeat spread faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, species that had been subjugated for centuries began to rise up. Council governors fled or were overthrown. Ancient cultures began to reassert themselves. Ambassador Lisa Barnes found herself coordinating a galaxy-wide transition from tyranny to freedom. It was messy, complicated, and sometimes violent. But it was necessary. A new assembly formed, not based on conquest and control, but on voluntary cooperation and mutual respect. Earth, as the catalyst for freedom, was given a seat of honor, but humanity wisely declined to lead. We're too new to this, Barnes told the assembly. We can share what we learned, but we won't dictate how you rebuild your societies.